The desire for knowledge about our world pushes explorers into the smallest caves, the deepest oceans, and even outer space. People have been exploring for centuries, but any explorer will tell you that the more they investigate, the more they realize there's still so much to learn. Explorer Sylvia Earle is a deep ocean pioneer with a long list of achievements. She has engaged in 7,000 hours of underwater study and written nearly 200 scientific articles on her findings. In 1970, she and a team of women aquanauts were required to live underwater for weeks at a time to research marine life. The fact that so much of the ocean remains undiscovered has driven Sylvia's work. In fact, even though explorers have been studying the world's oceans for years, they've only seen about 5% of them. Sylvia's purpose in life has been to protect the sea, and she encourages others to do so as well. Paleoanthropologist Lee Berger has been searching for ancient hominids in remote parts of Africa for over 2 decades. He is curious about the family of primates that evolved into Homo sapiens, or human beings. Lee has made some exciting discoveries over time, but his most important discovery came in 2014 when he led an expedition at the Rising Star Cave System near Johannesburg, South Africa. To explore one of the caves, researchers had to squeeze through an opening less than 25 centimeters wide. Lee wasn't small enough to do it himself, so he gathered an expert team of female researchers who made it inside. There they found over 1,550 bones, representing at least 15 individuals. The bones were brought to the lab where skeletons were assembled. Lee used 3D scanning to identify an entirely new hominid species, Homo naledi. Creating the skeleton was just the first step in understanding the new species. The discoveries we're now making show that in some ways the age of exploration is still just beginning, says Lee. Engineer and inventor Corey Jaskolski not only explores, but also creates high-tech tools that allow people to look into the past without harming its artifacts. Corey wants explorers to protect what they encounter so that future generations can learn from them too. When we discover things, we have a responsibility to preserve them as well, he says. Explorer Sylvia Earle is a deep ocean pioneer with a long list of achievements. She has engaged in 7,000 hours of underwater study and written nearly 200 scientific articles on her findings. In 1970, she and a team of women aquanauts were required to live underwater for weeks at a time to research marine life. The fact that so much of the ocean remains undiscovered has driven Sylvia's work. In fact, even though explorers have been studying the world's oceans for years, they've only seen about 5% of them. Sylvia's purpose in life has been to protect the sea, and she encourages others to do so as well.
Barrington Irving is one of the youngest people ever to fly around the world, and the first African American to do so. How did he get his start? He had been preparing for a career in professional football, but his plans changed when he met a Jamaican pilot in his parents' bookstore. He became interested in becoming a pilot and started learning how to fly by using a $40 flight video game. By graduation, he had been offered the chance to play football at several universities, but he turned them down. Instead, he focused on flying. He started washing airplanes to pay for flight school. After many hours of flight school and practice, his instructor said it was time to fly solo. Barrington wasn't sure if he was ready at first. He was nervous, but he flew well and landed the plane with no problems. His hard work and determination had paid off.
In 2007, at the age of only 23, Barrington Irving flew a plane around the world. A plane that he had a manufacturer build with donated parts. People had told him that he couldn't do it, but when the day came for him to leave, 5,000 supporters had come to the Miami airport to wish him well. Barrington's route included 27 stops in 13 countries. He flew for 97 days. He was in constant motion for hours at a time through thunderstorms, monsoons, snowstorms, and sandstorms. At times, he sang to himself to stay awake. Ultimately, he made it home. Barrington had set a record as the youngest person to fly around the globe solo. He was really excited. Barrington was now a respected pilot. But he also wanted to educate others. He started an organization called Experience Aviation and had kids build a plane that he actually flew. His goal is to get more young people to see how math and science can bring them a better future. The explorer gene. Are we born to explore? Of all the animals on Earth, none are so driven to explore as humans. Other animals will go in search of food or water, but humans can be motivated simply by the possibility of discovery. So what is it exactly that caused us to spread out across the globe 60,000 years ago instead of just staying in Africa? Perhaps it's in our DNA. In 1999, Dr. Chen led a team of scientists who were studying a gene known as DRD4-7R. This gene is found in about 20% of all humans. It's been associated with higher rates of risk-taking, exploration, and interest in new ideas. Dr. Chen found that DRD4-7R is more common in societies that move around a lot than those who don't. For example, studies in Africa show that the gene is much more common in nomadic tribes than in tribes that prefer to stay in one place. Several other researchers have studied this topic and found additional evidence to support Dr. Chen's claim. But can a single gene be responsible for a trait as complex as the desire to explore? Dr. Kenneth Kidd doesn't think so. He thinks DRD4-7R might increase curiosity, but other equally important sets of genes give us intelligent minds and skilled hands. We then use our minds and hands to create things. He believes that not just one gene, but groups of genes work together to create complex behaviors like exploration. The context we live in also plays a role in our desire to explore. For example, during the European age of exploration, explorers became rich and famous for their discoveries. This drove others to try to increase their wealth through exploration. In this case, their exploration was more likely motivated by money than by genes. Maybe the desire to explore comes from something inside us, such as the DRD4-7R gene. Or maybe it has more to do with what's happening in the world around us. Maybe both. Whatever the reason, it seems we, or at least some of us, will keep exploring the mountains, the sea, the stars, and beyond, because that's just what humans do.